All right, we are back, day 3 of the Anthony T.T. Jordan trial. It started out with a little bang out in the courtroom or outside the courtroom. One of the people that got removed yesterday for something was told not to come back. They tried to come back, and they were taken into custody. And I don't know exactly what happened to them, but the old federal peace disturbance, John. I would imagine that's got a little bit more sting than the regular.
It'll be a lot more.
But that's probably not a good decision. But anyway, got started a little late, a little ruckus. Judge Autry had to come out there, and he instructed I guess it was the marshals to take him away. And don't really know what happened after that. So that's how the day started. But the entire testimony was done by Derrick Terry. And Derrick is a cooperating defendant. He is 46 years old, goes by the name of D-Boy. And he's currently incarcerated, showed up in his orange jumpsuit. They just got into how he grew up. And Derrick D-Boy started selling crack cocaine as a 10-year-old. They went through, how he moved up and he would save his money and as he would go up, it just got more and more, get an ounce, then get a half an hour, 2 ounces, 5 ounces, and built himself up to where eventually he was getting kilos, but they went through all that. It said that his mother was a drug addict. I don't know exactly what that has anything to do, but so he had a rough life growing up, and he ended up in the drug game. They went through the fact that he's cooperating, and they all through you understand, just so that everybody understands that you are cooperating with the hope of getting some leniency, and if he does get leniency, it's decided by the judge. So they made it perfectly clear that yes, he is testifying to help himself out. He was arrested on a drug case. He got arrested several times over the years. He started out in 1999. He's been released and back and violated, and he's been through the system quite a bit. And he's also been at the dismiss house before. He violated his release a couple times doing drugs, and they went through a lot of that. And then they went through when he got arrested. He got arrested in 2016 in Dallas, Texas. And why he was in Dallas, Texas is because this particular case, Anthony Jordan's there's several defendants in this case. And this case has been going on for a while. Well, Derrick Terry was involved in the drug dealing portion of this case. And the first indictment that ever came out on him was just simply for dealing cocaine. Well, then as the investigation going and other people were getting arrested in this thing, they are in this investigation, they would get more information, and then a superseding indictment came out. And Derrick's got a couple guys out there that were involved in the case before, Oscar Dillon and Michael Grady. They're giving him information that ain't looking good for you. They're about to indict people. You're getting indicted. Blah blah. They were getting was what they called paperwork from people, and they did come out with a superseding indictment. And on the superseding indictment, he also got charged in a heroin conspiracy. And again, even though he might not have dealt heroin, they hit him with the conspiracy to do so, or touched heroin, I should say. And then he also got arrested for the murder of Blinky. And Blinky was the one murdered on Colt Brilliant at the dismiss house. And we'll get into that a little later. And then he later... Well, we'll just leave it there for right now, and we'll tie all the things together. And Derrick moved up in the dope business and kept on rolling. Started getting kilos out of Chicago. Got them for about $22,000 a piece, or $22,000 a piece. Made $25,000 if he bought it in wholesale, and he would break them down and sell them for a little bit more. He was his main area was up in the Ville, Northland, Kennerly, all them properties up in there. That was the area, and he went into how you deal dope in the area that you're familiar with, and that's why he liked to stay there. During his rise through the dope game, he had bought 17 properties He called it an investment. This guy was actually, I mean, he's pretty smart. He uses smartness to try to avoid, prosecution for the dope game, but he appeared to me to be a pretty smart guy. We went through the rule number 1, never keep dope in your house, never touch the dope. And I guess that's more for an upper level. Obviously, he touched dope when he was dealing drugs as a 10-year-old on the streets. But he would put his properties and vehicles in other people's names. Typical stuff that a lot of these people in the drug profession do, or drug business. They went on to identify 2 of his. He said he kept his group small, so he had only 2 guys at the time before he had met TT, and the guy by the name of Stanford Williams and Richard Scott, and they took the kilos from him, and he would instruct them what to do with it. They went through stuff, never talk on the phone because of wiretaps. Firearms are always around because it's a dangerous game. There's kidnappings, testing, like he said, there's snitches out there, dope robberies, and he did say that within this, when you're dealing dope like that, retaliation is part of the game, and then he used the phrase "an eye for an eye," which we all know that following all this over the years. So in 2007, 2008, they didn't know exactly when. They go through how he met TT, and they were introduced through Mike, and that's Michael Brooks. And Michael Brooks is the guy that was killed over at Roxy's and PT's, in the rear of Roxy's, but between the 2. So that'll come in. TT and Mike are tight. And the first deal they did, so they asked him, why did you trust? Because they went through, there's got to be a trust when people are dealing kilos to each other. They have to trust each other. And one of the questions was, why did he like Mike? Why did he trust him? And he said Mike appeared, or I'm sorry, TT appeared. Why did he deal dope to TT? And Derrick said that he appeared to be a very quiet guy. He had his own crew. His money was always right. Wasn't flashy. So they built a stronger relationship as time went on. And then TT gets to know, Derrick gets to know TT's group through just all the stuff they were doing. And some of the names they mentioned was Antonio Washington. And Antonio was the, you're going to hear a lot more about Antonio. He's also a cooperating witness, I believe. Don't know. It's the word on the street. And then Gregory Burroughs. And if you remember, Gregory Burroughs was the house on 4218 Sacramento that crybaby Al Walters was the confidential informant from, and that was the first witness put on with Pat Reardon. So he identifies him as one of his friends. So they go through that, and then they went through the relationship as they started dealing dope together this way for a while, but things would dry up occasionally. And when they would dry up, they would find any source they could. They were always, you're always trying to find a better source, different source, complementary source. So they did, at times, then pool their money together and just buy it from whatever source they could find. So they would do that, but they did mention that they were separate drug organizations, if you will, that they would get those large amounts of keys and do their own thing with them. They wouldn't go back and forth. So. And their people that sold dope didn't particularly work together. They were completely separate. So then they got into the fact that they would do that. And then this is when the name Adrian Lemons comes up. So TT somehow gets a connect by the name of Adrian Lemons. And I believe Adrian Lemons was part of a larger drug investigation going on. So Adrian Lemons is going to be one of the names you hear that they were going after him, but then this spidered out into all the rest of the stuff that we're talking about today, or talking about through this trial. And they bought 7 to 10 kilos from him at the beginning, and then that's how they kept going. So they were just finding any relationships they could, getting the kilos. They wouldn't talk a whole lot. One of the things was, did you guys know where each other just hold dope? Did you know where each other spent the money or held money? And that's just not stuff that they would talk about. And then he goes to the, Derrick goes into the time where he had gone, they had bought 3 or 4 kilos he didn't remember, and that was through TT, and then he had dropped it off to Gregory Burroughs over on Sacramento. So that's how that thing kind of all that tied in. So now Gregory Burroughs has said that that was TT's dope, and now Derrick Terry is saying, yeah, he dropped it off to Greg Burroughs. So they're trying to connect the dots there. As we know, Burroughs' door gets kicked in, and they go into how snitching's bad right before that, and then they go into how Gregory Burroughs' door gets kicked in. And then, so now this is just TT and Terry talking, and Derrick Terry says that TT tells him about the triple murder on San Francisco. That's the one that was in the rear where Al Walters, Lenny Jackson, and Keith Burks were killed in that. I believe it was an SUV, and they were shot up pretty good. And he tells him that he lured him back there for some reason or somehow, and then lit him up. But he doesn't have any more facts than that. So he just says that that's what he was told. And then he goes in to the double murder on the 4500 block of Martin Luther King, I believe, or yeah, it was definitely Martin Luther King. So he goes into how that went, and he says that he goes and meets Derrick goes and meets TT over on Sacramento at one of his places over there in the 4200 block of Sacramento. That's where they get into a Bonneville, and it's in the garage at the time. Or they get into a Bonneville, they leave, and then TT claims that he said that he was thinking about buying the car, so they're going to take a ride in it, and then as they're taking a ride in it, TT says that he got to holler at somebody, and Derrick Terry kind of knows what the play is. He's got a gun, and so they go find him. They find him. That SUV. The 2 people that were murdered in an SUV on Martin Luther King, they find that, and they follow it for about 2-3 blocks, and it takes a right on to Dr. Martin Luther King. It pulls over, and as it pulls over, Derrick Terry says they pull up to the side. TT rolls down the window, and with an AK-47 just lights them up. And they were both wearing masks, gloves. And they had kept their phones. I forgot about this. They had kept their phones at Sacramento, and they asked him why, and he says, because so they can't track you, because a lot of people watch those murder things, and they can track your phones of where you're at any certain time. And when they got to the garage there on Sacramento, they said, keep your phones here. And they had them very sophisticated. And then they went back to the place on Sacramento. They pulled it in the garage. They burnt the gloves, they burnt the mask, and then he said, let's chop the car up, which means get rid of it. Yeah. So they got rid of the whole, I don't know exactly where the car went, but that's what Derrick Terry says he told TT to do, is get rid of the car. So that was the murder on, and then what he did say, anytime they would do the murder, they would always drive away calmly. And they would never try to speed away. So he just said they calmly drove back to the house on Sacramento, backed the car in, and then they did what they did. So I found that to be somewhat interesting, is that they would keep their calmness when they would do these things. And then let's see, what do we got here? And that was so then we go into Mike. And so they're just going into how everybody knows Mike and who Mike is, and that's Michael Brooks. Derrick Terry said he knew him as part of TT's crew, and that he most likely occasionally sold cocaine for TT. In June of 2013, TT learns Brooks has been murdered over in Roxy's, and So now apparently there might have been a fight or something happened. There was definitely a beef. And so now TT gets information that Dee Head, who is Dominic Irons, is responsible for the killing of Mike. And that Anthony Anderson, who was shot up yesterday, in yesterday's testimony in the 5th District where the 3 houses got shot up there by Salisbury, he's the one that got shot up in that particular incident. So here's how that all ties in, is that TT has identified, or thinks to identify, got information through the grapevine that Dominic Irons was the one that murdered him, and it was Anderson that paid Dominic to do it. So now they're both on his list, on the list of shit you're not supposed to do. So now we're gonna fast forward, like we just got done with the beef with Mike and how they thought who might be dead. Not exactly sure where Dee Dee's at right now, Dee Head. But now we'll go to the June 25th, and on June 25th again, Derrick Terry meets TT over in the 3200 block of San Francisco, same house. Kenny Keys is he's a guy that kind of does work for these guys. He gets mentioned a couple times. Don't know exactly where he fits in everything, but he's over at the house too, and they do the same thing. They go over there. They leave their phones in there, and they get gloves, masks, firearms, and then they get another car. I believe this one was a Audi, and they put government plates on it. I don't know where they got the government plates, but apparently that license plate reader, that Colt Brilliant, got these government plates. And what Derrick Terry says is, with government plates and it being a government facility, we didn't think we'd stand out and have a better shot at it. But so they go over to the house, they meet again, they leave the phones there, they get all gloves, masks, firearms, and they go over. They go over now Blinky. This is the death of Blinky. And Blinky is Dee Head's brother. So this is why he comes into play, because Dee Head, obviously they're mad at Dee Head. So they go over and they have to wait in near the Dismiss house there on Colt Brilliant. Said they waited for a while. Now what a while is, he couldn't recall. But when you're sitting there with masks, gloves, and guns, that probably seems like forever. Colt Brilliant, good chance a policeman might pass you and whatever. So, and that's another reason, it was good they had Fed plates on, I guess. So they rolled up. They see him coming out. He gets in the car, and as they roll up, TT gets out of the car, and there's a female. There's clearly a female in the driver's seat. And Derrick Terry says, "Don't shoot that gal. Don't shoot that gal." But he got out front, and he put a pattern. Like I think I said that yesterday's thing whenever I was describing that, and they just whack Blinky good. He's down, and but the gal gets out and then runs into the thing, and he said, "Did you get that gal?" He goes, "No, I didn't know." And he smiled for some reason because he was so proud of his pattern, and then somewhere later, and they don't know, is that on one of the phones it was a news thing, and on the news they had the car, and so he pulled up the car that was there and he showed Derrick Terry that thing, and he was just so proud of his little pattern that he put to kill to kill Blinky. So they went into a couple of the other people. Gloria Ward was Mike's sister. We're going to hear from Gloria. And then Hellrell, TT says he was a Dee guy. He was a Dee Head guy. So Terrell, and then he tells Derrick Terry about what they did to Terrell, and he says how they chased him over to the Highway 70 and lit the car up, and that they later went to the 4500 block Evans and shot him up again a month later. And so there's that. Spree's involvement was in the killing of Mike. Who was Spree? Anthony Anderson, yeah. So he was the guy who supplied the money. And then let's see, Hellrell month later tells it, yeah. So they told him about the shooting of Hellrail, the 2 shootings of Hellrail, with the one coming down the highway. But again, he was just telling them about those. D-Boy, Derrick Terry, was not with him on those, so he just told them about those. He was with him on the Blinky murder and the 4500 block murder. So he's with him on 3 of the murders. The other murders he's just heard about. Those are just hearsay of everybody. We're going to go to another thing that TT had told Derrick Terry. He said that him and Antonio TT and Antonio Washington also did a killing or an offing on Peck in front of Marsh's bar, and that was Robert Parker and Clara Walker. They haven't set those murders up like they did the other ones, and that I guess they will coming up. But he said that it was over $13,000 of some sort. And Derrick Terry says, $13,000. Why you can't be killing people over $13,000? All right, but and then he also tells them about one last killing, and it was the killing of. Hold on, one here. I'll get his name. The killing of Mikel Yellow Mac Gridiron. And again, those are just words. He's just telling them that he did that. And they made that perfectly clear. The defense made it perfectly clear that he did not witness any of that. That was just what they would say is hearsay, I guess, or direct, conversation. So, and then they get into as this investigation's going on, they're trying to get information from different people about different things that are going on in this whole thing. So there's a guy by the Antonio Washington. They can't find him, and they know he's part of this whole thing. So when they can't find him, you just don't know. They don't know if he's snitching. They don't know if he's run. But it turns out I think he was in federal custody, but they can't find him, so they go over to his mom's house. So TT says that Derrick Terry says that him and TT go over to the mom's house, and the goal was to find Antonio Washington. However, they cannot get anything out of the mother. Well, Derrick Terry says that he felt that TT was going to murder the mother, and he looked at him and says, "If you kill her, I'm shooting you, and I'm gonna walk out alone." So he said and then he goes, "What do you mean by you just got to look?" He goes, "You don't get to be 46 years old in this business without knowing that look." Yeah. And he said that he had that look in his eye. So, and that was kind of, and then Derrick Terry also said that when he just didn't feel right going up to the house, he says, because he's been in the area long enough, and he says he felt there was cars in the area that he hadn't seen before, and he was meaning that there might be feds in the area. And then he came up with a good quote of, he said, if you can't, what was the quote? If you can't, in what we do, if you don't see the police, be scared. And when you do see them, it's probably too late. So I found that one to be good. And yeah, it was Michael Grady and Oscar Dillon were the ones that were trying to get information. They couldn't find this Washington. And so that was, that's how shit went. So then, in 2016, like you said, the heat's coming, and he can feel the heat coming. He gets some fake IDs, some cash. He knew the superseding indictment was coming out, where he was involved in that. Kiara Johnson, who was it? Kiara Johnson. He gets charged on the superseding indictment with just killing Blinky. But then he later also gets charged after he came in on, or after he cooperated, he also gets charged with the killing of Marquis Jones and Kiara Johnson on the thing. So they added one more, or added two more to the Blinky one. And then they went through the arrest in July of 2016. That's when they finally arrest him in Dallas. And he laid out the murder of Marquise Jones and Kiera thing. And he decides to cooperate, obviously. And then it comes out that he was actually, that Gloria Ward's going to be coming up in this. He ends up getting locked up with her in St. Francis County, even though female, and they're different pods. They took a bus ride together or something. They were getting transferred together. And he told Gloria Ward, hey, if you want to help yourself out, you can just snitch on me. I'm already done. And she said she started crying. So I don't know, there's going to be more of that coming up, I'm sure. And that was it. That took 4 hours. But then the defense attorney and the defense is, this recap's not going to be all that long. They did the normal thing. You lied to the police in the past. Well, yeah, he had different aliases as he was growing up in the dope game. He would throw, and they found all that in his records of what names he would use, all that stuff. And he lied about drug abuse to his PO. And there's like, hey, you'll lie to anybody if it benefits you. He goes, yeah, I'll lie to my wife. It benefits me. At times I lie. So they get that out of everybody. He gets arrested a lot. He testified against Oscar Dillon. Well, according to him, he testified in the Dillon against Oscar Dillon in 2001. So they went over. And the big squabble that they had was over the words, where are they at? Okay. In 2001, he said that TT occasionally dealt dope. And in this, today, he used the word consistently. So they jumped on that and they argued about the difference between occasionally and consistently. And basically he was like, hey, when it was dry, that's occasionally. When we had dope, it was consistently. So he goes, maybe I messed up my words. And then the defense attorney was trying to say, you don't pay taxes on all this money that you've made. He goes, I do pay property taxes. And the attorney says, do you claim it? And he goes, you don't claim property taxes, they just come. So that was a good one. And then there was one that got some people laughing a little bit, is that he, in 2021, he testified that he was a stand-up guy. So the defense attorney was going to get him on the fact that, you testified you were a stand-up guy. He goes, yeah, that was back then. So apparently he understood where that was going. And then they got him to admit that he smoked weed. Did drugs the whole time. He was saying that he did cocaine. They were trying to say that he did crack. He did Percocet, Xanax. So they were arguing over his drug use, whether it was crack, whether it was cocaine. Then they went into the proffer letter. So in a proffer letter, it says that you have to provide information, substantial information. Not just information. It has to be substantial. So the lawyers were trying to say that he knew that he had to come up with big stuff, not little stuff. So they were trying to go, he needs to be truthful and substantial, not just truthful. So they're saying that he might have had smaller information, but so he's doing it bigger. But he did say, he goes, everything I was given was substantial. He goes, that wasn't part of it didn't occur to me that I wasn't going to give anything substantial because I was talking about murders, drugs. That's pretty substantial to the normal person. They were trying to get into what kind of case this is, and then he did have a one-liner of the lawyer was getting on him, and this is one of the lawyers that's in from Pennsylvania. And Derrick Terry says, we all know what kind of case this is. Look where they flew you in from. So he's kind of getting on him a little bit. But they were going back and forth and back and forth. And it was the same stuff. They're just trying to get him on inconsistencies in prior testimony. We're trifling over some words. Substantial, they were big on the substantial. You had to come up with substantial stuff, right? And one of the things that, and the defense would get some points in here and there, and then, but they would use long questions, and then they would interrupt him if they didn't like where he was answering. So then at one point, he says, you're asking me these long questions. He goes, and then you're trying to trick me up. He goes, just ask me a question and let me answer. So they were doing that, and it was right after that where he said, just let me answer the question. And the next question, he was answering it, and the attorney jumped in again, and he gave him the old, please, let me, and then he just told the attorney, please, let me, because he was trying to answer. So he gave him the old fucking palm, baby. Stop. It's kind of a Woody moment.
Very Woody.
Very Woody-like. And the other one I liked is, they asked him why he had a nice loft in Clayton, and they asked him why he moved to Clayton, and here's a guy that just laid out, I don't know, what, 6 murders or whatever. Says it's too dangerous in the city. He moves out to Clayton. But there was, again, that was it. They're trying to tie everything together. Johnny, you got any questions?
What do you got in store for tomorrow?
I don't know. I left right after it was done. I didn't even stick around and talk to anybody. But I'm sure it'll be good. But I hope that makes sense to anybody. And then too, guys, if you have any questions, because I know I try to do the best I can, and we just come down here in the basement and just start taping. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll answer them.
Is he done testifying, or is he?
He is done testifying. Okay. So, and leave comments. If you want me to find anything out that I haven't provided, I can try to find that out. Appreciate everybody, tuning in for these daily updates. Like, subscribe, and share. Always, and then too, listen, if you like what we're doing, just go to the podcast page on our YouTube and pick one of them out and watch one of them. A lot of interesting stuff on there. Oh, and the one thing I ran into Archie Shaw, legendary detective from the city, and he knows all these people. So he's agreed to come on next week as one of the updates, and we'll let Archie talk about some of these guys and how he knows them. He was tangentially involved in this investigation, so he was there for the testimony today. So we're going to get him on here with us, and you can ask him questions too if you got any questions for Archie when he comes on. But yeah, it was a pretty intense day, and so I met a reporter from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and she was in the overflow room with me yesterday, but she went in the courtroom today, and we were asking. I just asked her how it was going in there, and she said that the morning session was so intense that one of the attorneys clicked their pen and it sounded like a bomb going off because everybody was just so just on edge. And then I asked her, so, old heads like us, 60-year-old ex-policemen, we think what we think, we're probably not all that biased, unbiased about this, right? So I asked her, because I didn't really think that the defense did anything like to turn the momentum or to say what he's saying was completely false, put it that way, or not. He appeared to me to be telling the truth, but that's biased, right? So I asked and she's a younger female, she's a reporter, and I asked her, how do you think the defense did? I said, do you think that they made any hay? And she, no. So that's a different opinion.
Was TT the only defendant, and everybody else?
Everybody else is done.
But they're trying to get their sentences reduced by testifying against TT. Yep,
and then to some of them, and then I know we're going to hear from a prisoner processing clerk that was working down at the Justice Center, that he was involved in getting them information. Going to hear from Antonio Washington, I think. And then Gloria Ward. Gloria Ward should be, I think that'll be some funny stuff when not funny, but entertaining, to say the least.
Very interesting.
But it is a good trial, and again, with your guys' help, ask questions, give us a like. Haven't covered anything you're confused, because I get confused in this trial, and I know I'm probably confusing you people. I wasn't on my game today because it was full day of testimony of interesting stuff. So you try to get as much as you can in there, or as much as I can in these things. So that's it for today. Like, subscribe, and share again. Peace.